least you have those. Also, I'm going to mostly show the proportion method because that is what almost every student uses. Like I told the students, I would solve these differently. I wouldn't set up a proportion for all these, but it's what they've chosen to use. They will be allowed to use a calculator tomorrow, so that should make life easy. And as you can see, you don't have to show your work. I am going to show you how you can show your work on the table. So to turn 27/40ths into a decimal, you're just going to divide the top by the bottom. So 27 divided by 40, and you'll get 0.675. To turn that decimal into a percent, you just multiply it by 100. So 0.675 times 100 is 67.5%. It's just as easy to go backwards. So to take 5% and turn it into a decimal, you're going to divide by 100. You can do that by moving the decimal point 2 places to the left. So if I have a 5 here, there's my decimal point. 1, 2 is the same thing as dividing by 100, so it equals 0.05. I can read that like a mathematician by knowing this is the 10th place and this is the 100th place, so I have 5 hundredths. But then to get full credit, I need to reduce by dividing the top and bottom by 5 and getting 1/20th. The last one, number 3, or number 5 and 6, which deals with the decimal 3, is 3.0. To make it a percent, again, I multiply by 100 and I get 300%. And yes, that is possible. And I can put any whole number over 1 to make it a fraction, so I get 3/1. I'll show again just a couple examples of how I do the work down here, but otherwise I'm just going to show the answers. To do a proportion, remember the proportion you need is over of equals percent over 100. Is the same thing as the part. Of is the same thing as the whole. So I'm going to set up my proportion, which is some ratio equals some ratio, and I know the bottom right is going to be 100. And the first thing I like to look for is the percent, because in my opinion that's the easiest thing to find. So I have 32%. So that goes above the 100. The of is 110. We don't know the is, so the 110 goes on the bottom, the is goes on the top. Cross multiply and get 100x equals 3,520. Divide by 100. X equals 35.2. Parents, I know this is killing some of you because you're thinking I can do it so much faster, and I know. I have tried to teach it. We will continue to try to set the home, but they can choose whichever method they like. I would have done just 0.32 times 110. Just like on this next one, 205% of 40, again, I do 2.05 times 40. Most of them will choose to set up a proportion with 100 on the bottom right. It mentions 205%, so that goes above 100. I see of 40, so I know that goes on the bottom, which means I don't know what the is. I'm not going to show my work much here, and I'm going to start skipping ahead a little bit because most of you are pretty good at this and just give answers. But the answer here, eventually you'll get x equals 82. I'm just going to show you your setup here and then the answer. I'm not going to start solving. Here you would have 84 over x equals 210 over 100, and eventually get x equals 40. Here you would get 42 over 70 equals x over 100. Eventually you get x equals 60. But be careful because it is specifically asking for what percent, so you need the label of percent. One trap parents that sometimes, as you're trying to help them, falls into is you're used to the idea of if you did 42 divided by 70, so the method that you like to use, and I apologize for the little bit of the glare, you get 0.6, so you know to multiply by 100 to get 60, but notice, using the proportion method, and I guess I should move that up, using the proportion method, you already get the 60. So you should not multiply that by 100. And then finally, you would have gotten 15 over 45 equals x over 100. And you get x equals 33.3 repeating percent, because it asks for what percent. And finally, here's the one that's a little tricky. And this is one where the proportion method does kind of help us a little bit, is we don't want 7 over 21. We want 21 over 7, because the of is 7, and the is 21, equals x over 100. And here we get x equals 300%. So again, that's one where the proportion method can help us stay a little bit more organized. On the back, again, I'm not going to really show you 13, 14, not going to spend a ton of time on it. You should have x over 16 equals 83 over 100. Get x equals 13.28. And 30 over 75 equals x over 100. X equals 40%. All right, now here is where life gets a little tricky, and it's not your computer screen that is making it look blurry. This one is a little blurry. I told the students that on the quiz tomorrow, the nutrition facts that are going to be posted, it's going to be different, but it is going to be crystal clear. So I had two to work with. I had a kind of blurry one, and I couldn't find a more clear one. And then I had a very clear one, so I figured it'd be best to put the crystal clear one on the quiz and just answer blurry questions as needed. All right. So lots of different ways we can think about these. I'm going to try to explain it this way because I think this is the most straightforward, and it is setting up proportions. So it talks about the total dietary fiber needed in a day, and right here is the dietary fiber. And it says that 3 grams is 13%. I'm writing that out because that's a true statement. Well, I can write 13% as a fraction too. Instead of using the percent sign, I'll just kind of scribble that out, and I'll write it as 100. That's still 13%. And now if I want to set up a proportion, the same, only here it actually tells us the percent. So here the sugar intake, which is right below the dietary fiber, is 13 grams. So again, 13 grams is 45%. And again, instead of the percent sign, I'm just going to write it as a fraction. And again, I still don't know what my total of the day is. So remember how I said part over whole? 13 is just part of what you need, where we don't know everything we need. We can cross multiply and get 45x equals 1300. Divide both sides by 45, and we get x equals roughly 28.9 grams. Again, you'll have to round to the nearest tenth. Most people get number 17 correct, but they lose points because they don't show the work. You must show work to get full credit. You have to show all the work. So it says, what percent of the total calories are from fat? And that is found right up here, calories, and right here, calories from fat. So I know that I have 60 calories and none of them are from fat. So my question to myself is, the 60 calories, is that part of the whole thing, or is that everything and all? Well, the 60 calories is everything. So that's the whole number, so that goes on the bottom. Well, how many calories are from fat? 0. Again, I know parents, you want to just divide. They will want to set up a proportion. Either one is okay. Because x over 100. Cross multiply, I get 60x equals 0. Divide both sides by 60. 0 divided by anything is 0. I want to know what percent, so I need my 0%. Fortunately, we don't need the nutritional facts for the last 3. 18 works just like 15 and 16. Just it gives us all the information rather than us having to look it up. If 16 grams are 5%, how many grams make up 100%? Cross multiply 5x equals 1600. Divide by 5, and x will equal 320. I look back to see what my label is, and it's grams. Number 19 is totally changing course. It wants to know which one makes a higher percentage. So really, I have like 2 separate problems. Over here, I need to figure out 25 out of 2,000. And over here, I need 30 out of 2,500. I need to find the percent, so I'll cross multiply and get 2,000 x equals 2,500. Divide both sides by 2,000. X will equal 1.25%. Likewise over here, x over 100, cross multiply. Sorry about that. 2,500x equals 3,000. Divided by 2,500. X equals 1.2%. So I can kind of add a 0 if it helps me compare. You don't actually need it. But you can almost look at like money. Look at it like money. What's more, $1.25 or $1.20? Well, naturally, $1.25 is more. So, which one's a higher percentage? I need to actually answer the question. 25 of 2,000 is a higher percent. That's my actual answer. All right, last one. Create and solve a problem. That works. They use this 4% of iron. Show all work. You don't have to be super creative. You can just use what you know. Well, I'm looking at number 20, and I'm looking at number 18, and I think that they are really, really similar because I see 4% of iron and 5% are carbohydrates. So I'm just going to steal number 18 and make up a grams because I'm looking back to my nutritional facts and it doesn't mention iron anywhere. At least, well, I mean, it does. It's got 4%, but it doesn't talk about how many grams it is. So I'm just going to carbon copy number 18. If 16 grams of, now here's the first change to the carbohydrates. I'm going to deal with iron. Are not 5%, but 4% of the total daily value. How many grams in all? That's the first part. Create the problem. Now I have to solve it. 16 grams are 4%. I don't know how many grams are 100%. So I'll cross multiply and get 4x equals 1600. Divide both sides by 4. X equals, well, 16 divided by 4 is 4 with 2 zeros, 400 grams. It's possible, whoop, sorry, I did that way low. I'll move it up so it's easier to see. It's possible that your student chose different numbers. That's okay, as long as they created a problem that works and solved it, all is well. All right, we'll be having that the first half of class tomorrow. Good luck. If you're my second or third class, feel free to sign up for Roar. Otherwise, talk to me before school. I will see you all on Functional Friday, which is tomorrow, Thursday.